We don't fall from grace. We drift from it, one small surrender at a time. You felt it, haven't you? That insidious whisper, barely audible beneath the noise of your day, the one that says, skip it today, you're too tired. Just this once. Or, ignore that promise you made to yourself, to your health, your integrity, your dreams. You've been told your whole life that evil is loud, obvious, a monster that announces itself with fire and fury. We expect the clash of swords, the explosion, villains shouting their evil plans. But what if that's just a distraction? What if the real devil, the one that does the most enduring damage, doesn't come in a blaze of easily identifiable chaos? What if the loudest evil is the one you don't hear, the one that blends into the background hum of your life? What if he arrives in the quiet, during that final, in the moments you're too tired to notice, you're too mentally fatigued, too distracted, too comfortable to notice? In the last time you choose to look away, have you ever stopped to think about what you're actually letting into your mind, inviting in your life, your soul, when you drop your guard? Slip. Just once more. Just one more time. The devil, the force that pulls you away from who you could be, from your potential, doesn't always come crashing in. He slips in during the last time. And that's what you need to understand. It's not usually the big betrayal or the obvious compromise that breaks you. It comes in the last time. Not the first betrayal, not the second compromise, but the final moment when you say, it's fine. It doesn't really matter. Just this once. What's one more time? The devil's power isn't in being loud. It's in being unnoticed. The worst damage doesn't come from dramatic attacks. It comes from tiny lapses, small cracks, the little things you stop watching. This is the uncomfortable truth our noise-filled culture has trained us to ignore. The greatest dangers, the ones that truly erode your foundation, don't storm the gates demanding attention. They seep silently through the hairline cracks you've stopped monitoring, the small negligences you've deemed unimportant. Today, we're not just talking about evil. We're tearing down the lie and the myth that evil is always obvious, loud, or monstrous. The truth is, the most dangerous evil is quiet. It looks normal. It hides in the everyday. And if you're not careful, it's already inside, maybe even staring back at you in the mirror. And it's already closer than you think. Let's start with you, right here, right now. Be honest. You felt it, haven't you? That insidious whisper, barely audible beneath the noise of your day, the one that says, skip it today, you're too tired. Just this once. Or, ignore that promise you made to yourself, to your health, your integrity, your dreams. It's not that big a deal in the grand scheme. It's the siren song of ease, the lure of the path of least resistance. It's not the first time you break a habit that slowly destroys you, the extra drink that becomes routine, the avoided responsibility that snowballs, the postponed difficult conversation that festers. It's the last time, that final instance when you stop mustering the energy to rebuild, when the pattern solidifies from a tendency into the concrete reality of who you are. Psychologists call this the extinction burst, that paradoxical surge of internal resistance right before you finally give up fighting for what truly matters, precisely because it feels overwhelmingly easier, more comfortable, to surrender to the downward current. The devil doesn't need to tempt you with grand, dramatic sins like Faustian bargains. He seduces you with the mundane comfort of apathy, the slow, creeping numbing of your will, your spirit. Evil isn't always chaos. Often, it's the profound, stagnant stillness of apathy. Consider Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor wrestling not with external legions on the frontier, but with his own internal frailties in the quiet solitude of his tent under lamplight. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." His meditations weren't written for publication. They were a nightly battlefield report from the front lines of his own soul. He relentlessly confronted his own weaknesses, his laziness, his flashes of anger, his moments of doubt, knowing with chilling clarity that the real enemy wasn't a barbarian horde, but the internal moment he stopped questioning himself, the instant he accepted mediocrity or rationalized a lapse in virtue. So, why do you let that seemingly small choice slide, again and again? What tiny, incremental piece of your potential, your integrity, are you sacrificing on the altar of immediate comfort? What if the devil's true power lies not in overt force, but precisely in your accumulated exhaustion, your decision fatigue, your willingness to trade long-term fulfillment for short-term relief? What future self, what unrealized potential, are you betraying when you perpetually, habitually say, "I'll do it tomorrow"? But here's the crucial twist. This internal battle isn't fought in a vacuum. Society, culture, even our immediate social circles, hand us the script, often subtly. Fit in, it whispers through countless channels. Don't make waves, don't be difficult. Go along to get along. One white lie, one small compromise for the sake of harmony, won't hurt. The devil often arrives cloaked in social acceptability, urging conformity. He comes in the last time you nod along to a sentiment you find morally questionable just to avoid conflict or awkwardness, the last time you silence your authentic voice, your inner truth, simply to keep a fragile, superficial peace. Research from social psychology, like the famous Milgram experiments or Ask Conformity studies, chillingly demonstrates how easily individual moral judgment erodes under group pressure. Each small compromise, each instance of looking the other way, makes the next one exponentially easier. By the 10th time, the 50th time, you don't even notice you're betraying not just your values, but your very self. The devil thrives not just in personal silence, but in collective silence. Think of Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the German theologian and pastor who chose active resistance against the Nazi regime when the vast majority of his peers chose silence, complicity, or cautious neutrality. He powerfully stated, "Silence in the face of evil is itself evil. God will not hold us guiltless. Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act." He understood, with terrifying clarity, the profound moral cost of looking away, of rationalizing inaction by saying, "It's not my fight," or "What can one person do?" His stance reminds us of Hannah Arendt's concept of the banality of evil, the idea that great atrocities are often committed not by fanatics or sadists, but by ordinary people who simply accept the prevailing norms and stop thinking critically about their actions. Have you ever stayed quiet when your conscience screamed at you to speak? Have you ever chosen the comfortable path of non-involvement? What are the cumulative consequences of looking away, not just once, but repeatedly? What essential part of your integrity, and perhaps our collective humanity, did that silence cost? Let's dissect this further, tactically. The devil, understood as the force opposing your growth and integrity, is a master strategist, and his most effective, universally applied weapon is your own distraction. You think you're in control, navigating your life with purpose. But every time you mindlessly scroll past a difficult truth on your feed, every time you choose digital entertainment over deep work or meaningful connection, every time you actively avoid the necessary but uncomfortable conversation, you're essentially handing him a pawn, weakening your position on the board of your life. What you habitually ignore, what you refuse to confront, inevitably becomes your greatest threat, your hidden vulnerability. Robert Greene, in The 48 Laws of Power, explicitly warns that immense power lies in unwavering focus and the ability to control your attention. Lose it, scatter it, and you become easy prey for manipulation, both external and internal. The devil doesn't need to engage you in a direct, pitched battle. He just needs you to stop paying rigorous attention, to let your focus drift, to become absorbed in the trivial. What truly happens, incrementally, day by day, when you stop paying attention to what truly matters? Here's a practical challenge, a way to feel this dynamic directly. Tonight, or as soon as possible, carve out just 30 minutes. Find a quiet space. No phone, no music, no books, no screens, no distractions whatsoever. Just you, your breath, and the contents of your own mind. Sit in stillness. Notice how quickly your mind rebels. Notice the urge to fidget, to plan, to worry, to seek any stimulus. Notice the discomfort, the restlessness, the mental static, that feeling, that intense urge to escape the quiet, to run from your own unfiltered presence. That's the devil's footprint. That's the moment he whispers, insidiously, "Run from this. Fill the void. Seek distraction." What deep truths, what unresolved issues, what aspects of your own being are you actively avoiding when you compulsively fill every waking second with noise, information, and external stimuli? You've been subtly, persistently taught, conditioned by a culture that often values external achievement over internal coherence, that evil is primarily out there, an external force, a political opponent, a cartoonish villain in a movie, a shocking headline you can consume and then scroll past, feeling momentarily outraged but ultimately detached. You've come to believe, perhaps unconsciously, that safety and success lie in perpetual motion, in staying busy, in relentlessly chasing the next goal, the next promotion, the next acquisition, in never slowing down long enough for uncomfortable introspection. But what if this frantic busyness, this constant outward focus, is itself the most sophisticated trap? Evil hides masterfully in the unexamined cracks of complacency, in the routines you perform without question. What if the real, enduring danger isn't the external threat you can point to, but the internal moment you stop asking, with genuine curiosity and courage, is this life, this choice, this action, truly aligned with who I want to be? Is this contributing to my deepest values? You've been told, perhaps, that deep self-examination or constant vigilance is morbid, unproductive, even paranoid. But maybe, just maybe, that vigilance, that quiet, consistent attention to your inner state, is the only thing truly keeping you free, awake, and alive. Why do we collectively, habitually, overlook the profound dangers of complacency, mistaking comfort for safety? Here's the part no one advertises, the truth often obscured by the noise. You are already at war. Not necessarily a war with the world, with other people, or with external circumstances, though those conflicts exist. The primary, most consequential war is the invisible one, fought constantly within the landscape of your own mind, your own heart. The devil, that force of inner entropy, comes subtly in the last time you ignore that persistent, nagging feeling in your gut, the quiet but insistent inner voice that whispers, "This isn't right. This isn't you." It's the invisible war, waged not with bombs and bullets, but in the silent, countless moments of choice where you must decide between fleeting comfort and enduring courage, between easy apathy and difficult integrity. The quietest moments, the ones where you are alone with your thoughts, often hold the loudest, most significant dangers and opportunities. Take Miyamoto Musashi, the legendary, undefeated samurai swordsman, whose Book of Five Rings is less about sword technique and more about strategy, awareness, and mental discipline. He wrote with stark simplicity, "Do nothing that is of no use." This wasn't merely about efficiency, it was a principle of profound vigilance against wasted energy, scattered focus, and actions misaligned with purpose. He lived by relentless, self-imposed discipline, knowing intimately that one lapse in attention, one moment of useless distraction, could cost him not just victory, but his life. Repetition builds strength, yes, but repetition also deepens grooves. What patterns, what thoughts, what seemingly minor habits do you repeat daily that are subtly eroding your spirit, your focus, your potential? What's the one seemingly small choice you keep making, day after day, that's unknowingly letting the devil gain ground in the invisible war within? There's yet another layer to this, rooted deep in our psychological makeup. The devil, the adversary within, thrives luxuriantly in your blind spots, in the territories of your psyche you refuse to explore. Carl Jung, the pioneering Swiss psychiatrist, called this the shadow, the repository of all the parts of yourself you deny, repress, or refuse to consciously acknowledge, your fears, your insecurities, your guilt, your shame, your unexpressed anger, your hidden desires. Every time you instinctively push away these uncomfortable feelings, every time you distract yourself from guilt, numb your fear, or project your shame onto others, you're not escaping them. You are, in fact, feeding the shadow, giving it more power, allowing it to operate unconsciously, influencing your choices and perceptions from the darkness. Modern psychological research consistently shows that suppressing emotions doesn't make them disappear. It increases internal stress, fogs judgment, impairs decision-making, and can lead to distorted perceptions of reality. The devil doesn't need you to commit overt sins. He simply needs you to hide from yourself, to maintain your blind spots. How does this subtle, unacknowledged evil infiltrate your life, your relationships, your decisions, completely unnoticed? Try this simple, yet potentially profound exercise. Take a piece of paper and write down one thing, just one, that you know you're actively avoiding confronting. It could be a difficult truth about yourself, a mistake you haven't admitted, even to yourself, a fear that's holding you back, a resentment you're nursing. Now, just look at it, written there in black and white. Acknowledge its existence without judgment, without needing to fix it immediately. That simple act of facing it, of bringing it from the shadow into the light of your awareness, that's reclaiming power. That's asserting control. That's cultivating stillness amidst the inner chaos. Why do we instinctively run from the very things that, if faced, could ultimately set us free? Let's elevate our perspective further, into the philosophical realm. Perhaps the devil, in the most profound sense, isn't a conscious entity or an external force at all. Perhaps it is simply the absence of meaning, the vacuum created when purpose erodes. Philosophers like Friedrich Nietzsche powerfully warned that when you lose your fundamental why, the core reason that animates your existence, the values that guide your choices, you inevitably lose your way, becoming susceptible to nihilism and despair. The last time you consciously or unconsciously choose apathy over purpose, indifference over engagement, cynicism over conviction, you're not just slipping momentarily, you're actively contributing to the hollowing out of your own life, falling into the void where meaning used to reside. The devil doesn't always need to announce himself. Often, he simply waits patiently for you to abdicate your own meaning-making. He comes when you stop believing, deep down, that your choices, your actions, your life, truly matter. He is the quiet creep of meaninglessness. What is your why? Not your job title, not your accumulated possessions, not the fleeting goals on your to-do list, but the intrinsic fire that keeps you feeling truly alive, engaged, purposeful. When was the last time you felt it burning brightly? Can you articulate it, even just to yourself? If you struggle to answer, if the line goes quiet, consider that the devil, the void, might already be knocking softly at your door, finding you receptive. Here we arrive at the highest, most critical manifestation of this truth. The devil, the force of diminishment, ultimately comes in the last time you consciously choose to stay small, to play it safe when courage is required, to shrink from your potential. Note the distinction. It's not when you fail honestly, not when you stumble while striving, but when you make the deliberate, internal decision that it's simply not worth trying anymore, that the risk is too great, that you are not capable, that your contribution doesn't matter. This is the final, pivotal choice, the one that echoes backward and forward through your life, the one that ultimately defines the trajectory of your spirit. Could the devil's quiet, unassuming arrival, disguised as prudence, realism, or humility, be infinitely more dangerous, more soul-destroying, than his imagined fire and fury? Consider J. Robert Oppenheimer, the brilliant physicist who spearheaded the Manhattan Project, forever wrestling with the profound moral weight, the terrifying implications, of creating the atomic bomb. Reflecting on the first successful test, he famously quoted the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." He didn't shy away from the shadow aspect of his creation, the immense responsibility, the doubt, the fear. He faced it head-on, and chose to act within that complex, terrifying reality. You don't need to change the world on that scale. You simply need to consciously change one moment, one decision, one habitual reaction within yourself. Reclaim your power of choice. Exert control over your attention. Cultivate stillness to hear your own truth. What is the one crucial choice, the one necessary action, the one uncomfortable truth you are actively avoiding right now? What cascade of possibilities might unfold, both internally and externally, if you finally made it? Evil doesn't always roar. Often, it only needs to whisper doubts, justifications, and the allure of ease. The devil, the inner adversary, comes in the last time you let him, the last time you choose complacency. But you don't have to grant him entry. The real, sustainable power lies not in frantic resistance or hyper-paranoia, but in quiet, consistent vigilance, the calm, courageous strength to face yourself honestly, to rigorously question your choices and motives, to deliberately choose meaning over apathy, growth over stagnation, courage over comfort. Every single time you consciously affirm, "This matters," you reinforce the walls of your inner fortress. Every time you face an uncomfortable truth without flinching, you win a crucial battle in the invisible war. Why does apathy open the door so wide to evil, both personal and collective? How does our own silence, our own inaction, become a potent weapon for destruction? So tonight, or in the next quiet moment you find. Don't just distract yourself. Ask yourself, with genuine intent, what am I really avoiding? What's the one choice, the one action I keep delaying out of fear or inertia? Don't just think about it, write it down. Look at it. Face it. That simple act is where your power ignites. That is the beginning of your freedom. Comment below, what's one limiting belief you've started to question or flip recently? What's one small, courageous choice you're ready to make today? Subscribe for more strategic breakdowns of the inner life, and let's commit to fighting this essential, invisible war together, one conscious moment at a time.